Where is everyone? Why is the universe so quiet? It was an ordinary lunch at the Los Alamos National Laboratory on a hot summer day in 1950. However, even lunches in such a high-level laboratory can be the scene of unusual conversation, especially if those who met at the dinner were Edward Teller, Herbert York, Emil Konopinski, and Enrico Fermi, the most senior nuclear physicists of the time. The names were the geniuses who had already built the area known as the nuclear age of humanity. As a result of the work of these names and many others, technologies such as nuclear power plants and nuclear bombs became possible, as well as brand new revolutions in atomic physics could be created. However, what interests us in this story is the conversation that took place between these friends during a specific lunch. The conversation was about the UFO news that appeared in the newspaper recently. They were talking about the possibility of life in space. They were also discussing the possibility of discovering faster than light objects in the next 10 years. According to the story, it was this time and that Enrico Fermi suddenly jumped up from where he was and asked that famous question. Well, but where's everyone? His friend knew what he was talking about. The universe must be boiling with life. We should have come across life in one way or another in every corner of the universe we look at. But so far, not a single piece of evidence has been produced to prove the UFOs are really alien vehicles. Not have been able to find any traces of life with our telescopes and space probes. In this case, just like Enrico Fermi, we ask you, where is everyone? Just think about it. In the Milky Way galaxy alone, there are between 20 and 40 billion stars with similar properties to our Sun. There are thought to be at least 100 billion galaxies in the observable universe, a number that probably exceeds 300 billion. If the dwarf galaxies are included in this, the number is calculated to be around 7 or 10 trillion. In other words, there are stars in the universe that have the potential to host billions of trillions of life. Which is what we are talking about here, in the sense that we know life is organized on carbon-based and water-bearing planets. We are not even talking about alternative forms of life. It is estimated that there are at least 5 planets and at least one rocky planet on average, around at least 25% of these trillion-time quadrillions of stars. The Earth is just one of such a large number of planets. Life began through abagenesis and chemical evolution in the first 500 million years of the Earth's life, that is, about 4 billion years before the present. In other words, the conditions on planets located at a certain distance from their stars, that is, within the Goldilocks zone, seem to be suitable for the natural evolution of life as we know it. Many of the billions of trillions of planets should also be located within the appropriate zone. Therefore, life in them must have already evolved. On the practical side, the other side of the business, the fact that there is stars or galaxies to ever leave the dominating type 2 or type 3 civilization, evolutionary history hyper-reality leave the greatest simulations of type 4 intelligent civilization. Leave any entity that we can count in a bacteria even we have met. All of the claims that UFOs are really aliens, without exception, are groundless nonsense. Therefore, our calculations, which give high probabilities, and our observational data do not match. We call this incompatibility the Fermi paradox. Can we solve the paradox? Not yet, because there is not enough data. But as science continues to progress and collect data, we can accumulate some possibilities that may be the answer to the paradox. Let's take a look at the possibilities at hand. What is the big filter hypothesis? First, we come across the big filter hypothesis. You can think of the great filter as a cosmological version of natural selection. In other words, it's a selection mechanism that works not on the basis of species, but on the basis of civilization. Civilizations may be destroying themselves. The technologies we produce thanks to our brains, which have evolved by biological means, may be out of our control at some point and destroying civilization. You can also think of this in science-free ways, such as artificial intelligence getting out of control, or the fact that civilization could be destroyed by the use of nuclear bomb technology. Civilizations may be destroying each other. An even more frightening possibility is that life is programmed not to destroy itself, but to destroy each other. After all, most of the life on Earth has evolved to eat each other or defend against each other. It is violence and brutality for a lion to tear out the throat of a gazelle. But we agree that the natural balance is established on this. When it comes to people, we are uncomfortable with the same idea, because culturally we have come to believe that interfering in the lives of others is a bad thing. But when the playing field is the whole universe, when the players are civilizations with different powers from each other, the struggle for existence between lion and gazelle, that is natural selection, may come into play. When civilizations meet each other, a competition may be emerging in the form of the survival of the fittest and strongest. In this case, two very few civilizations can survive and many will destroy each other in the process. This may explain why we don't see civilization in space. One possibility, of course, is that these superior life forms simply don't care about other life forms. When you need to build a house, do you care about the life of ants, squirrels, or mice that live on the construction site? When a Type 2 or Type 3 civilization encounters a low civilization that has not even been a Type 1 yet, it may be consuming the systems or its galaxies recklessly. We may have evolved in a remote corner of the universe. Another possibility is that we are actually located in a remote corner of the universe, far away from abundant civilization. After all, the universe is a huge structure, and we may have evolved in an unlucky corner of it. The universe may be very young or small, or the universe may still be extremely young. After all, we are talking about a structure that has such a lifespan that even a quadrillion times quadrillions of years will remain small next to it. At 13 billion years, life may be too short to take on a building structure, especially if the theory of multiple universes is true. Each of the inconceivable number of universes can exist for inconceivable periods of time. Besides this, maybe our universe is very small and very young. Who knows? The SETI paradox. We may be doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. Even worse, there is a possibility that we are not able to find life because we are doing the wrong thing at the wrong time. According to a paradox known as the SETI paradox, instead of civilizations trying to send signals to other civilizations, they may be trying to listen to other civilizations. In this case, since no one is sending a signal, no one can hear each other either. After all, even we have sent deliberate signals into space only a few times. Most of the time we are just listening. Even if other civilizations are sending meaningful signals for a very short time, it can be extremely difficult to listen and detect them at the right time and in the right way. For this reason, civilization may never be aware of each other. Zoo hypothesis. Civilizations may not be purposefully contacting us. Of course, there are even crazier possibilities. Civilization may not be intentionally contacting us, because this is contrary to the first directive, the prime directive. Those who have watched Star Trek know, A galactic civilization should not interfere in the internal affairs and natural development of alien civilizations. In other words, according to this explanation, also known as the zoo hypothesis, aliens may be aware of our existence and not interfere with us. After all, we also observe the animals in the zoo and try not to interfere with them much. Conclusion: the new hypothesis of science. As you can see, there are a lot of hypotheses and very little data available. At its simplest, even if there is an alien civilization, it is difficult to even imagine what it would want to do. Maybe they don't want to separate. Maybe people aren't interested. Perhaps their physiological structure has evolved so differently that they cannot perceive such concepts as separate, occupation, colonization. Perhaps all of these possibilities are erroneous, and another possibility is true altogether. What do you think? Don't forget to write in the comments section. Subscribe and like. Stay healthy.